Hello, welcome to this information session on youth mental health and wellbeing. My name is Jess Phillips. I am the Community Engagement Officer at Headspace Glenroy.
Hi, I'm Liz Burgart. I'm the Director of Clinical Programs for Orygen, the National Centre of Excellence in Youth Mental Health.
Hi, I'm AP and I'm a member of the Youth Advisory Group at Glenroy Headspace.
The aim of this session today is to increase your level of knowledge and awareness about some of the common mental health issues that are confronting our young people, and to enable you to feel more confident in supporting those young people that you work and live with to seek the help and support they need, should you feel worried about them or concerned. Alright, so to start our session today, we just wanted to do a brief activity with you that explores some of the existing knowledge and understanding about mental health. Mm-hmm. There are many myths, facts, and often disempowering stereotypes out there surrounding mental health and mental ill health. And so we're going to pose a series of true or false questions just to get you thinking about your existing knowledge and to perhaps help to reframe some of those beliefs and understandings that you might have. So, true or false? 75% of mental health problems emerge before the age of 25. Okay.
That is true. 75% of mental health problems do emerge before the age of 25. And look, at the time, when you're an adolescent, it's a time of change. Your bodies change, your brain changes. You've got study pressures, social pressures, things like that. So for some people that's new and exciting, but not everyone is able to cope with it, and that just leads to mental health issues during this time especially. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. More susceptible, huh?
Yes, definitely.
Yeah. Okay. True or false, Liz? 25% of young people will experience a mental health problem during adolescence.
Yes, that's true. So just as AP said, it's a time of great change for young people. So we know that they're going through changes socially and emotionally and with work and studies. So there is a high chance that they'll experience some mental health challenges in that time.
Okay. Our third one. Liz, true or false? Mental ill health is a result of bad parenting.
No, that's false. There's lots of contributing factors, and in fact we don't know a lot of the causes of mental illness, so we do know that there can be a range of things that contribute. There could be some biological factors, there could be some psychological factors, from trauma or loss or neglect, perhaps at an early age in childhood. And there's also some impact of environmental changes, some stress, some social pressures, might be substance use that can impact on people's mental health.
So a range of things.
Yes, so it can be a combination.
Yeah. I feel parents and friends can often blame themselves and feel guilty that they're responsible personally for the young person's distress.
Absolutely.
Okay. True or false? Feeling down or flat from time to time means that you have depression. AP?
Absolutely not. That's false. We're normal, we're human, and we will feel down from time to time. We will react to stresses in our lives, to situations, and that doesn't mean we have depression. We will talk about depression a little later on and what that is exactly, but this myth is false. Yeah.
Good to bust that one.
Yeah, busted.
Okay. True or false, Liz? If you're worried about your mental health, it's better to try and figure things out for yourself before seeking help.
No, that's been one of the reasons why we've been really pleased at Headspace Centres, because it's encouraging people to seek help early. We know that if you've got a small problem, it's better to get the help early rather than before it comes too big. Just like when you have a physical health problem, when you break your leg or break your arm, you go and get help quickly so that it will heal quickly.
Yeah, that's a great analogy.
Yeah.
Okay. True or false, AP? asking young people about suicidal thoughts or behaviours will often put ideas in their head. Is that true or false?
That's false. There is no evidence to suggest that talking about suicide will lead to suicide. Research shows that between 22 and 38% of adolescents already have thoughts about suicide at some point in their life. So chances are that they're either already thinking about it and you're not going to make it worse. In fact, by addressing it, you're letting them know that you care and you're there for them. And it'll make it more likely for them to seek help. And maybe talk to you about it if they do feel that way at some point in their life. So
One of the things we know, isn't it, if we don't ask,
we won't find out. Exactly.
Yeah.
So yeah, no, that myth is false.
Okay. Alright, second last one. Self-harm, true or false, is an attempt at suicide.
No, that's false. We know that self-harm is often a way that young people are perhaps coping with distressing situations or something that they're trying to manage, or some feelings that they're finding hard to manage. So it's a way of coping, not always that helpful, and it takes time to learn perhaps some better ways to cope with those situations. So we need to take it seriously. We need to help the young people and understand what's happening for them and what's the underlying cause of that self-harm. So important to listen and important to ask.
Absolutely.
So AP, true or false? Asking for help with a mental health issue is a sign of weakness?
That's absolutely not true. That's false. In fact, asking for help is not a sign of weakness. It's a sign of empowering yourself. It's a sign of bravery, and that you actually want to take those steps further to lead a happier life and to deal with it early on, so that you really are equipped with dealing with future such situations. And I think it's just it's out of respect to yourself as well. So it's very important that you do seek help if you are suffering. Yeah.
And we're going to talk quite a bit about that
Definitely
later on. We're going to talk about some of the factors that can impact on someone's willingness or ability to seek help, things like stigma, and fear of judgment. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay. So when we're talking about mental health, I guess at Headspace we like to frame mental health quite positively, and we like to think about it as this ability to cope with change, to be able to study and work to our full potential, to cope with day-to-day stress, and to remain socially connected to one another, and to be able to live our life in a fulfilling, meaningful way.
Definitely. Yeah.
So what might good mental health look like, AP?
Good mental health could be feeling energized, feeling motivated, feeling positive, having fun in life, and even seeing yourself in a positive way. Having positive social connections, being active, being socially active physically, and just feeling happy in general about life and positive about it. Definitely, that's a sign for me for good mental health. Yeah. Definitely.
And so there are, as you said earlier when we were talking about those myths around parenting, you indicated, Liz, that there are a range of factors that impact on someone's mental health. What might be some of those factors in addition to what you've spoken about?
So I think there's lots of things that we can see. It might be that people are struggling to live financially, and they may not be in stable accommodation. So if you're at risk of homelessness, or you haven't got a stable home, that's not going to help your mental health. You might be having problems at school, you might be having problems in relationships, so you might be feeling bullied, or you might be struggling in your relationships with other people. That can impact on your mental health. So it's often a combination of factors that can impact, and we know it makes a difference. It's not always just one thing.
Sure.
Yes.
Yeah. Sure.
Correct.
And it differs for everybody.
Absolutely, yes.
Yeah.
Everyone has a different experience.
So we like to think about mental health as existing on a continuum. So where we sit at that point will differ, and it will fluctuate throughout our lives depending on a range of different factors that you've both spoken about. things like homelessness, things like drug and alcohol abuse, financial pressures, bullying at school. No one is either sort of mentally well or mentally unwell, where we might drift along that continuum even within the space of a day.
Yes,
there
absolutely.
might be a range of things that are impacting on our capacity to function well.
Correct.
Yeah, definitely.
So, two of the most common signs and symptoms of mental ill health we see at Headspace are anxiety and depression in young people. So we're going to talk to those two today in detail. So for young people under the age of 25, they're the most common symptoms that we tend to see. So how might we be able to recognise if someone is experiencing depression?
So I think we talked about before that it's normal to feel a bit depressed over certain stresses in your life, and that's a normal emotion. But we know that if that's sustained over a long period of time, that's not normal. So it's probably putting together a combination of things, and the things that we might look for are some early warning signs, things like changes. What's different, how that young person's been. So are there changes in appetite? Are there changes in mood? Are they particularly irritable when they haven't been irritable? Are they struggling around sleep, either sleeping too much or not able to wake up and spending a long time sleeping? They might be struggling concentrating, not able to concentrate on the activities that they normally enjoyed. So when we see those major changes, we start to put a pattern together that says this is not okay. It's something that's more sustained, and there's a definite change in mood.
And sometimes it's not as easy to tell that someone's depressed. It could vary. Like typically when we think of depression, we do think of the symptoms that you just mentioned before, but it could vary. You know, somebody could actually be high functioning and be depressed as well. And it's really knowing the person and really, you know, understanding how they, like you mentioned, how they are usually, and how is it, you know, there will be changes. It's not like it's completely undetectable, but we have to recognize that it's not always the stereotypical signs of depression.
And it does differ for everybody.
And you need to just talk to them and understand them to maybe realize that maybe something's not right.
So I might move on to just have a bit of a chat about anxiety.
Yeah.
So what is, because I think anxiety is something that we all quite naturally tend to feel.
Definitely.
So what would be the difference between just feeling anxious, like kind of normal anxiety, and it sort of borderline problematic? How would we know? How would we differentiate the two?
So I think there's lots of situations in our life that can make us anxious. If we've got to do a presentation or prepare for something, sit behind a camera, it can make us quite anxious and quite nervous. That's a normal reaction, and it goes away when the situation's finished, that we calm down again and we feel okay. It also gets us ready to prepare for those situations. So that's those situations that we can find normal, where we'll feel a bit nervous and a bit anxious and a bit worried about. That's a normal anxiety, but it usually goes away. When it's sustained over time and it doesn't go away, it starts to stop us doing the things that we enjoy. And again, it's that level on that continuum that we worry about for young people. So I think the slide that shows it can, particularly with anxiety, it can be quite physical symptoms that you can feel like your mind's racing, you have constant butterflies, and you become quite paralysed by those range of physical symptoms that you're feeling and unable to do the things that you enjoy.
And I think panic attacks are a very common symptom of anxiety. You know, when you can't breathe, you've got shortness of breath, and you know, and you're triggered by things that don't warrant such a reaction, and that's when you know that there's a problem there, and then it's a little bit out of control to feel that way.
So we're going to be having a bit of a chat now with AP about her personal lived experience of mental ill health. Often this can be really helpful to hear directly from a young person about their experience, so as we can gain some insight into what it's really like, and hopefully that information and her insight will support you in looking out for those young people that you might be concerned about. So thank you, AP.
No worries.
Can you just start by telling me a bit about your mental health journey?
Sure. I have depression and anxiety, and it hit its peak when I was at university because of all the study pressures and everything. And mainly I have social anxiety, and what triggered me for that was one-on-one conversations. So that would terrify me because my irrational thinking was that I had to be entertaining and I had to be interesting so that they'd want to hang out with me again. That obviously isn't right. But I did talk to a friend about it, by accident actually, because I just happened to have these overwhelming feelings. And she was my friend, we were studying psychology together, so I said, I feel weird, like sometimes I feel, X, Y, and Z, like I feel that. And she said to me, I feel it too. And I'm like, really? Is this something that many people feel? And so through that, she told me that she dealt with it with therapy. She did CBT and she had some self-help books, and she really could control that, and she helped me seek help. And I did CBT myself with some self-help books, and I saw a couple of psychologists, and the skills and tools I learnt there, I still use it today. And now it's been maybe 2 or 3 years. Those feelings have gone away. I'm not socially anxious anymore, and I'm able to fully enjoy a social interaction without wanting to run away home. But yeah, that's where I am right now, and I still do have. I still suffer from mild depression and mild anxiety, but I'm able to control that because I'm able to now. I have people I can talk to, and really check it and get it. Check myself in situations where I feel like that. So it's really that's where I am right now, and I feel great. I feel good.
Yeah, awesome.
Very positive.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Could you just clarify CBT for us?
CBT is cognitive behavior therapy.
Okay.
And that's a form of therapy that psychologists and people use to identify your cognitions or your thoughts around things, and then identifying the negative thoughts. Why do you feel that way? What's going on in your head? What are the thoughts and feelings around that? And then you make slight behavioral changes, or you try to think, try to counter that negative thinking in order to change it. It's a very complicated thing to explain right now. But basically, I had to challenge some of my negative thinking and make that into and that would affect my behavior. Like if I was in a situation like this, I would be feeling very conscious right now and very anxious right now. This was a few years ago. But if I tell myself that I'm being silly, I don't have to be entertaining. I don't have to impress this person so much so that they'll want to hang out with me again. And that calmed me right down. And I was able to concentrate on the conversation and enjoy it. And that actually was beneficial because, we had a good time and we hang out again. So it's just really the relationship between your thoughts and your feelings, and then how it relates to your behaviors. So yeah, that's CBT in sort of like a nutshell.
Yeah, great.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah.
And so stigma is something that we're going to talk quite a bit about.
Yeah.
In the next little while, but I'd just be interested for you in what role stigma played in your willingness or ability to seek help for what was going on.
Yeah, stigma was a huge one. Not only, it's quite prevalent in our society here, but that combined with my Indian background. As a culture, it's very like, not intolerant, but you don't talk about when you feel depressed or anxious. And it's so much so that some people don't even know what it is. I had one family friend saying to me, what is anxiety? what is depression. They didn't know those concepts. But even generally talking about our own society here, I felt, and I was under the impression growing up that it was a sign of weakness to feel depressed. It was a sign of like you're a hopeless person, you know, and you shouldn't feel this way. And so growing up with that mentality really did affect me seeking help sooner. Because if I did, it wouldn't have peaked and then exploded, you know, and I literally did explode at university. And it did stop me from doing that. But I sort of had to break through that, and when I really got bad at one point, I did speak to my family and friends about it, and they were so supportive. So it's really trying to break that, and as a culture and as a society, this intolerance and these negative connotations to mental health really does affect a person, and it can be destructive. But if we make an effort to change our minds about it as a collective, it can really ensure that every single person is supported and positive, and you know, so it's things like that. So stigma did play a massive role in my getting better and my wellness. So
it sounds as though you were very brave though in your willingness or your ability to confront that.
Yeah, well, I guess if you've come to a point where you really can't function anymore, but it shouldn't have to come to that point. That's my point. So yeah.
And so, in relation to your family,
Yes.
what were some of the most helpful things that family and friends said to you that supported you to get well?
Yeah, definitely. Look, it was extremely. They were really supportive when I told them, and one of the things that I still remember and that really helped me was that, you know, I think it was my mum who said, it's okay that you feel this way. Of course you would. Look at all the pressures that you have in your life right now. Look at all this. So of course you would, and it's okay. And let's go get help. So she supported me, and so did my friends, so did my entire family. And just having them listen to me. A lot of the times just listening is great. And that can sometimes be all you need, and maybe more. But, you know, having that support and them telling you, or even friends, you know, I feel that way too. Oh, it sucks. Like, you know, it's having that connecting that way to people as well was extremely helpful for me. And that really led me to be like, okay, well, I've got social support, I've got my family supporting me to get better, I'm going to do this. And it was the biggest thing for me, actually. Yeah.
So just that open validation from your mum that you had a lot going on and it was okay.
And it's like, thank you.
Yeah.
Yes, I do have a lot going on.
Yeah.
And yeah, it encouraged me to be like, okay, you know, let's do this, let's get better. So yeah,
beautiful.
Yeah,
like a very special mum.
She's amazing. Yeah.
So just to shift from that very positive experience, looking at some of the most helpful things that your family and friends did to support you, what were some of the more unhelpful things that people said or did? Yeah.
I never had anyone negative in my life when I was, you know, so that's a good thing. But our loved ones sometimes can say things that are not helpful. For example, you're okay, as in, it's not that bad, you'll be okay. Or, not you'll be okay, well, it's not that bad, why are you worrying about it so much? Or even something I call autism, and something that I've learned from a friend of mine, you ought to do this, you'll feel better. And you should do this, you know. If you do this, you'll be okay. For example, clean your room, you'll feel much better. And from my side, it was like, you're telling me that my room's messy and I'm a messy slob, because when you're in that state of mind, you really can't think of it in a different way. And B, if it was that easy, I should have just done it. Well, now I feel stupid if that's the easy solution to feel better and to be okay. So it was things like that that didn't help. But one thing we have to recognize is that when a loved one does say that to you, it comes from a place of love and worry, and they want you to feel better. And so they want to advise you as to do this, you'll feel better, because it might have worked for them.
Yeah, sure.
But we have to recognize that it just because it worked for them, it doesn't mean it will work for you. And so, like I mentioned before, the key thing when you're talking to a young person you're worried about, listen to them, and maybe come up with solutions with them of something that they might like to do that may relieve their stress at that point. And also, if it's at a stage where it's bad, their condition is bad, like, you take them, let's say, come, let's get help together. I'm here for you, I'm supporting you. So really listening to them, to what they need. So it's things like that. Yeah, that helped me at least. Or sorry, that didn't help me, but listening helped. Yeah.
I think what you said there about family and friends, that fear that something's not going right here, something's not the young person that I care about isn't well,
and I need to fix it because I love them and I'm responsible. Or not even that, it's you want to fix them. We all have a natural tendency to want to fix someone we love or care about, but it's not your job to fix them, it's your job to support them, to seek help, to help themselves. You can't do the fixing. So that's what we really have to remember when supporting a young person.
Yeah, beautiful.
Yeah,
beautiful. Self-care is something much like stigma that we're going to talk in detail about in a few minutes. But I would just be interested to know from you, how important is self-care? And what types of things do you feel that you need to continue to do on a day-to-day basis in order to keep well?
Yeah, I want to start off by saying that different people will have different needs of self-care. For me particularly, I run through the exercise of the negative thoughts that I have. I question that and I challenge that and I make it into, I'm bust those myths. Like, you know what I mean?
Sure.
And I do that.
Catch them.
Yeah, I try and catch them as soon as I recognize them.
Yeah.
For my social anxiety. Another thing that I really need to do is I need to keep active, whether it's exercise, playing a sport, taking if you have a dog, taking your dog out for a walk, and getting that really just oxygen and just feeling good, which is mentally and physically beneficial. Another thing for me particularly is I like to feel like I'm achieving things. So setting myself goals and then achieving those goals in order to move forward. And that for me is the biggest, I get a lot of self-esteem from that, which then just boosts everything up. But like I said, it'll be different things for different people. You just have to know what your limit is and where you restrict yourself. So you should learn to say yes to things that you think will help you and no to things that you think will just go over that. And so it's the balance between saying yes and saying no, and pushing yourself without crossing the boundaries. And it's just things like that. Individually, you really have to listen to yourself, and for you to do that, you have to seek help and you have to accept that you have something to work with. Like you're giving it a name. I have anxiety. Okay, what can I do with this? And then you go and work with that, and then you come up with solutions as to what you could possibly do. So yeah, that's how I need to do that. I need to do all those things I just said on a daily basis for me to stay positive and mentally well and physically well and to excel at life, hopefully. Yeah.
Yeah, brilliant. And do you think for people that haven't had an experience of mental ill health that self-care is still important?
Absolutely. Yeah, of course. Like you said, there's a continuum. And when you're not, you don't feel happy or positive about how your life is right now,
Mm.
you will like fall a bit below or a bit above or whatever it is. So in order to make sure that you're staying positive and you're on the positive side of things, everyone, whether you have mental illness or not, whether you have mental ill health or not, whether you are stressed or not, you should always surround yourself with positivity and challenge yourself and, you know, take care of yourself to stay mentally well. Yeah.
Yeah, awesome.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much
Thank you,
for
Jess.
sharing that with us today.
No worries. Thank you.
So on that note, we're going to jump into exploring self-care and stigma and looking at some of the ways in which we can support those young people that we might be concerned about to be as well and awesome as possible. So we might start with some tips, just some general tips for a healthy headspace. AP, you touched on self-care just earlier, and you talked about some of the things that work for you, sleeping well, setting yourself goals.
Exercise.
Liz, you might like to add in here. What are some of the things that parents and friends can support young people to do to keep well?
Well, I think AP mentioned lots of them, and I think it is about the individual. It's what works for you.
Yeah.
It's a range of, we know eating well, sleeping well, being physically fit is going to help, but it's finding those activities that work for you, that you practice. You practice to relax, you practice to think, to feel better and to lead a healthy life. And I think that's important for families too, because I think the impact, and AP, you touched on it, the impact of you feeling not so well would have had an impact on your family.
Absolutely.
So how can they also look after themselves too, and think about tips for their own healthy headspace to support you.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think that's a really important point, Liz, because often when we are supporting someone that we care about, that can often take a toll on us, physically and emotionally too. So to have those strategies that we can use to bolster our own resilience and strength.
And
It's
if
really
we stay well, then we're better able to help the young person who's in need.
We might jump into exploring that concept of stigma a bit more. So, what is stigma, first of all?
I think again we touched on that in the conversation, but stigma impacts on a lot of people, and I think it's an issue that stops people seeking help. So we know it makes people feel disgrace, they feel shame, and they feel fear, and they feel discrimination because of their mental illness, and they feel that they're going to be marked or labelled or put into a stereotype. That they're mad or that they're in trouble. So I think that stops people seeking help, and that's a real concern to us. So I think we've got to tackle stigma. We've got to help educate people about what mental illness is and what some of the myths are surrounding it, and that, you know, like AP's demonstrated, you can get better.
Yes.
You know, it's not a one-way journey. It's a very positive outcome, and if you seek help early, that you can get a lot of help.
So I guess the next thing that we might want to talk about is the importance of listening. And you really highlighted the importance and that validation that your mum gave you, and how profoundly that impacted your willingness and ability to seek the help that you needed.
Absolutely.
So I think often we think we're listening, but we're not really listening. So what might active, helpful listening look like?
First off, when you're listening to a young person share their story or their experience or their feelings, what is helpful, particularly was helpful for me, was just listening. You know, don't try to put ideas. Sometimes you might want to, you know, when someone's saying something, you might be like, and then you feel this, and putting words in their mouth, or you know, just trying to, like I mentioned before, trying to give them advice as to what to do. The best thing you can do is just listen and support and give encouragement and give, you know, stuff like, yes, I understand, yes, like, you know, things like that. And then sometimes that's
non-judgmental.
Exactly, yeah.
Trying not to be judgmental, trying not be critical,
Yeah.
and I think show that real empathy, I think is the examples that
Exactly.
you've demonstrated to us today that's
Yeah.
helped you, AP, and I
Absolutely.
think that's a challenge for all of us. I think too, and out of genuine care, you can want to help or fix somebody
Absolutely.
and tell them what you think
Yeah.
is going to make it better for them, but really understanding where they're coming from, so really important.
Absolutely. And really listening to what they want to do as well, rather than having your own ideas of what they should do.
One of the other areas, and we've got it on the slide, is the importance of finding a good time to talk.
Yes,
Um,
absolutely.
You know, not a time you can that just fits into your schedule. It's about finding the right time for the young person who's struggling. What's going to be right for them to really feel comfortable, safe, and okay to talk about what they're struggling with.
Absolutely. And this could be if you a conversation in the living room, or you know, if they're not comfortable with this one-on-one, like very intense thing, it could be taking a walk together, or you know, and really listening to what will make them comfortable and really what they need. And putting them at
playing
ease.
basketball.
It could
might
be that as
whatever's
well.
right for that young
Exactly.
person, that
Yeah.
they're going to feel comfortable to share what they're struggling with.
Yeah.
I guess non-blaming is really important too. Like when we're thinking about how we're going to frame that conversation, I guess we don't want it to be, we don't want to accuse that young person, but we want it to really be an open forum for them to share what's going on.
Absolutely.
I think so. There's some other ideas here that are helpful too. We know, and we've touched on these ways that can be good for your own relaxation and positive thinking and positive well-being. So it's finding what's right for you.
Yeah, awesome. I think that last note about spending time with positive people is really
Absolutely.
important.
And supportive people.
Yeah, AP, you touched about that. Touched on that in your interview as well.
You know, surrounding yourself with people who know you and you know, who will only bring about positivity in you and will not impact you negatively. You know, really choosing. And
So we're close to finishing, but there's lots of, it's okay to find out, okay, I've got someone that's looking for help or that's struggling, what do I do and where do I go? So there are, depending on where you are, there's lots of, I think it's important to go to someone that you trust, someone that you feel comfortable with as a start. So obviously friends and family that love and care about you are going to be the first point, but there's lots of other places to go. School wellbeing teams or welfare people or teachers will help you find some help or find where do I go. There's lots of centres now for Headspace around Australia, so you can walk in the door to Headspace or ring up and they will, if there's one near you, they will work to help you solve some of the issues that you're dealing with. So we've got some ideas up here that people can contact. Certainly in emergency, there's Kids Helpline and Lifeline will help people who are really feeling like they're in crisis or they've got an emergency.
Absolutely.
So
I guess it comes back to finding someone that you trust, doesn't it? Whether that's someone in your community, a local sporting club leader, a school coach or something. I guess it's about feeling that safety and comfort in confiding in that person.
and then they can help you find the professional help that you need.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Strength in numbers.
Okay, so thank you for joining the session today. Just to finish off, we've listed some websites that have got some excellent materials that you can easily download and research some of the topics that we've just touched on today in a very short piece of time. So look for those resources at your leisure. So hopefully what we've provided today is a summary for you. It's some early tips or some more ideas about some early warning signs that you might see in some of your friends or some of the young people that you're close to, and some ideas about where you might go to help and how you might be able to help those young people manage some of the challenges that they'll be facing. Thank you for your participation, and just to finish off, we've added in a video that we hope that you'll download and have a look at. It gives you some other helpful ideas and stories from some young people about some of their journeys and some of the things that have made a difference to their lives when they've been challenged by some of the mental health issues facing them.